So I'm sure you've all seen it, this video of David Coote doing the rounds. Now, supposedly of David Coote, let me just say this, AI technology's got very clever. I just want to put that aside of it in case something comes out in this video ages poorly. But look, it looks pretty damning, doesn't it? This is a video of David Coote saying some pretty awful things about Jurgen Klopp and talking about why he doesn't like him. And it seems like it's a video from a little while back, but I'm not 100% sure about that either. He's a Premier League referee. The PGMOL are investigating it now. If you haven't seen it, it's all over social media. In fact, it was shared by Josh97LFC. We're going to go through what was said in some detail on this video. But really, I just want to talk about the complete and utter lack of professionalism of PGMOL. And I think what we need to really do is reflect on, okay, David Coote, it ain't looking good for him. But I think we need to reflect on the PGMOL as a whole. I have done live streams on this show, on this channel, shall I say, calling out the PGMOL, calling out the way they operate, calling out the decision-making, calling out the way they want to officiate the game and govern the game in this country. And I've often talked about incompetence. I've often talked about them being really bad at what they do. You know, some people have thrown out things like corruption and stuff. And, you know, I've been very reluctant to say that. That's a massive accusation. But there's no doubt that alongside their incompetence, we've got to now question their professionalism massively. We've got to question the way they operate overall. And that's going to be the big thing I want to talk about in this video. No, it's not just relating to Arsenal. In fact, it's Liverpool fans who are the most aggrieved by all this, not only because of what he said about Jurgen Klopp, but there's a feeling by some Liverpool fans that there were a string of decisions made by David Coote, either on VAR or as a referee on the pitch, that they feel have gone against them. When you look at some of the language he's used about Jurgen Klopp, while there's absolutely no confirmation in these videos from David Coote that there's no admission of, refereeing Liverpool differently or having a bias against them. When you speak this horrifically about someone, he calls him the C word and he really kind of goes to town on him. That for me is when you go, well, okay, you're only human. You're going to have opinions about people. That's not really the worst thing. But to feel them so strongly that you need to kind of talk about it in a video, knowing quite frankly that video could go anywhere and you feel kind of that careless about it and you just want to throw it out there. And also, if you have these strong feelings, then again, being human, it's totally expected that there could be some sort of bias that creeps in there. And that's kind of the conversation that's come out of all this. But like I said, it's the professionalism there that I really question. Now, I sort of rambled on a little bit, but let me just go through what David Coote said. He, described the Liverpool performance as shit, which, okay, that's his opinion on the performance. I don't think it's particularly professional to talk about it, but whatever. He then uses, like I said, the C word to describe Jurgen Klopp on multiple occasions, which for me, you really, in fact, do you know who summed up why this is such a problem really well? And I want to reread his tweet out. It was James Benge, who of course journalist, covers Arsenal and other clubs as well. But he says, I'd say a pretty key premise of refereeing is that you have to be able to brush off the 90 minutes of abuse you get and remain fair-minded. Obviously, a lot of unknowns about that video, but it's untenable to be a referee and hold what seems to be a vituperative grudge. I don't know if I pronounced vituperative right, but there we go. And I think he's spot on. I think that's exactly the way to put it. That's why the wording he's used about Jurgen Klopp is such a massive problem. He then goes on to say, David Coote, that he did his best not to speak to Jurgen at times. At times. He said, I did my best not to speak to him. I mean, that, for me, again, that just feels like you've got to be treating everyone exactly the same. Whatever you think, you've got to be willing to have the conversation with these people who, it's the players and the managers. They get a lot of stick. I know the PGMOL and referees do too. I understand that. But they've got to be willing to have these conversations and listen to managers. And if it crosses the line of abuse, then the people, above the Premier League will get involved and do what they have to do. But again, to say that he did his best not to speak to Jurgen, that doesn't sit right with me. He then goes on to say that the video can't go anywhere because this was kind of two separate videos. So he then goes on in the second part to say, this video cannot go anywhere. He knows that it's outrageous what he's saying. It's really shocking, to be fair. And I will just add this at the very end. He doesn't claim, and I think I said this earlier in the video, but he doesn't claim to have, refereed Liverpool any differently. It's worth saying that he hasn't come out and said, yeah, no, I purposely wouldn't give them decisions or I hated, them doing well. He doesn't say anything like that. That is worth saying. But you can't blame fans for thinking that he ultimately did, that ultimately there would have been a bias within him because he has gone on to say such strong language about Jurgen Klopp. There's other things to explore in this. It is being investigated, like I mentioned. The PGMOL, I think, are in a corner here. They can't do anything. But like I said, this shouldn't be all eyes on David Coote right now. I want the PGMOL to be looked at, because I think the way they carry themselves lacks professionalism massively. We saw this Mike Dean quote where he basically said, I've got the quote in front of me, I won't read it all, but he basically says that, he was talking about Anthony Taylor and whether he should have been sent to VAR by Mike Dean, who was on VAR, whether Anthony Taylor should have been sent to the screen a couple of years back when Chelsea played Tottenham so that they could review a decision of a red card for a hair pull on Cucurella. And because it'd been a really kind of feisty game, a really hectic game, he basically goes on to say, Mike Dean, that he chose not to send him up to the screen because he'd had a tough day. I mean, that was like a little nugget of information that told us back then, like, there's a lack of professionalism in the way they do the job. Like, he says he's my mate, I didn't want to put him through that. And you think, that's not how you do your job. And I think this is like, we heard that, and some people complained about it. I certainly did. But it kind of also got brushed under the rug. I mean, he's on like Sky Sports, like giving his opinion on refereeing decisions. Like, that's a pretty like outrageous thing for Mike Dean to say, and it's a really bad way to approach his job. It denied him doing the right thing for the sport in that moment, because he had a mate he was trying to look after, and that's a serious, serious problem. And we had a warning of that back then. And then you got things like these accusations about referees, refereeing in other leagues in other countries and getting paid for it. And, the allegations of, why that's incredibly wrong. You had all this stuff together. You look at Howard Webb having a show where he's basically trying to just justify what, decisions referees are making, for what? For positive PR? You look at the way they're trying to officiate the game now with this incredibly harsh second yellow card rule for time wasting, and the various other rules they've tried to bring into play. And you just sit there thinking, the way they are operating the PGMOL is so unbelievably in the bin. Like, it's so bottom tier here. The way, okay, David Coote is one referee who's done this. But I just think the way the PGMOL have operated in general, and now this, I think what David Coote isn't going to remain in his job. I don't think. I'd be staggered if he did. But I think we all know that. I want bigger questions about the PGMOL here that I think should have been here a long time ago. By the way they want to officiate in the Premier League, the way they govern the game, not govern the game, but certainly the officiating of the game, and the way they're sort of like becoming so much a part of the story, and they shouldn't be. Like, really, we shouldn't know referees' names. We shouldn't really be talking about them ever. It shouldn't be a weekly conversation. There shouldn't be shows where we're constantly discussing the big decisions and talking points. I'm pretty sure that doesn't exist in the Champions League. Why? Because there's a higher standard of refereeing. Whenever I watch the Champions League or watch the Euros or the World Cup, sure, bad decisions are made, but it's never, ever anywhere near as much a talking point as it is in the Premier League. And that's what I really, 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 really want discussed on the back of all this. David Coote, what will happen, and he can only blame himself. I mean, how stupid have you got to be to go on camera and have these opinions, and to have such strong opinions to the point where, like I said, people are going to question whether it's affected the way he officiates. And already some Liverpool fans have brought up examples of decisions that went against them under David Coote's officiating of the game. Decisions that seem like ridiculous ones to get wrong. And those questions will be brought up, absolutely, and rightly so. But I want the PGMOL to be looked at as a whole here as well. That's kind of my big takeaway from all this. I don't think they're fit to run the officiating in this league. I think they get far too much wrong. I think all these things are there's just too many talking points outside of even just bad decisions. There's so many other things that we're questioning here about them. And their professionalism as a whole is just so unfit for purpose for the standard we should be holding them to. One of the richest, if not the richest league in the world. Incredible managers, incredible players, incredible fans, and a refereeing governing body that is nowhere near fit for purpose. I think it's shambolic. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Liverpool fans are furious, and rightly so. I think we as football fans should all be utterly incensed by the PGMOL, by the behaviour of some referees, by this video that's come out of David Coote, if it's real. And I will just keep saying that because, like I said, AI is pretty nuts these days. but we should all be incensed by it, which is why I had to make a video talking about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Bad day for the PGMOL. Just want to add this before the video goes out. You'll obviously have caught all my thoughts and reaction to the news about David Coote, but he has been suspended while a investigation goes on by the PGMOL, and he has apparently denied that the video is real, essentially. So look, I think it's important to say that. We will see what happens. My reaction to everything and my bigger question about the PGMOL remain, but I wanted to let you know that was the latest update as well, and add that to the end of this video.